Hey guys, I'm Dan Schwarz, and I'm here with some wing professionals, and I'm about the opposite of a wing professional. So I'm gonna do my best to learn a little bit more. I've got Klaas Voget, who's with the Fanatic team. He's a professional windsurfer and part of the Fanatic design team. Got Solbach. He's part of our kite team. He does boards, and he's also been very involved in the wing thing from pretty early on. And I've got Dan Gavere, our North American specialist. He's been involved in Fanatic in North America for years, and these guys are going to teach me about these wings, because I've actually until now never even touched one. So we've got some questions that we've got from the internet. There's a lot of people that are as dumb as I am that don't know anything about this sport. So I was gonna try and hit you guys with some of these questions. First and most obvious one is, what's the easiest way to learn how to do this new sport?
You want to take that one?
I would probably learn it separately. I learned foiling first, surf foiling. Sky told me in a few waves behind a ski, and that's how you learn what the foil is actually doing, and then you don't have to deal with the wing and the foiling at the same time. So I learned foiling. I have a long windsurfing background, so for me it was really easy to catch up. But if you learn how to steer the wing on the beach, and you can actually foil separately behind a boat, behind a ski, you know what the foil is doing, then you put both together, and then you should be able to learn it pretty quick.
Yeah, I would say, like, just from our experience here, like teaching people who have never done it before, I think if you have a bit of a windsurfing background, it's, you kind of know how to hold the sail. And if you don't have a windsurfing background, I think it's easiest just to like practice on the beach, like Klaas said, and then transfer those skills to the water. You can even start with a normal sup without a foil on it first, and then develop your foiling skills separately. I think is probably easiest if you've never foiled, and then kind of put the two together. And I think that's the easiest way to learn.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be really challenging to try to go out and learn how to hydrofoil and to ride the foil wing simultaneously. You're gonna catch on a lot quicker and have a lot more fun if you separate the two.
Yeah.
How useful is this wing with just a paddleboard and not a foil? Is that something that people are doing, or do you need the foil first?
Well, I mean, like we just said, like I think learning on a sup board is totally great. That's a great way to learn. I think it's the easiest way to learn to hold the wing and steer the board using the wing. But I mean, the thing that makes the foil wing really great is the hydrofoil. So that's what really makes it fun and more performance. That's what really makes it fun. If you're doing it on a sup board, it's quite slow. And I mean, you can do it, but if you're looking for a little kick of adrenaline and you want to have some fun, I think you really need the foil.
So you guys recommend learning the foil first and then adding the wing?
I would think so, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's definitely what's the most fun.
There's one thing: if you just go on a sub board without a center fin, or it's something like a dagger board, you're not going to arrive at the same place where you started. So the upwind ability is not really there.
Yeah.
So if you start on an SUP board, I would say go for one that has a center fin, or add a drift stopper or something like that, so you're able to return to the same place.
Yeah, you can actually stay upwind. With a normal sup, I think a lot of people just drift downwind, which is okay to learn how to use the wing. But I think, having a dagger board or a drift stopper is a huge bonus. And then when you add the foil, then that's when it really becomes fun.
Or at least I would say a composite board is going to be a lot easier to kind of hold a line against the wing versus an inflatable, which has like a really rounded, more buoyant edge. That's going to be more challenging, if you're trying to stay upwind. But you're still going to learn, even if you're going downwind, how to move the foil wing in your hands, and just kind of the handwork it takes to control the wing, get the power, and
Okay.
like that.
Composite board. You guys are getting a little technical. What gear would you recommend that I use to get started wing foiling?
Well,
I always recommend like a medium-sized SUP foil board, something where you can crawl up. It's with a bit of stability. We have in the Fanatic range, we have a 610, for example.
Yeah.
That is a really good average size board.
It's like 130 liters, 135 liters.
Yeah. Next year's range, we're gonna have a 611, a 67. Those two boards for the lighter guys, maybe the 6.7. The heavier guys, the 611.
Yeah.
And then a foil that has a lot of lift and is easy once you're up on the foil. We have one that is a 2,000 square centimeter front wing, a longer fuselage, quite a large back wing with wing tips, and that adds a lot of stability. And that's the easiest setup I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend to go on a full-on surfy, turny setup, because once you're up, you're going to be there's a lot of things at the same time, and a foil that is easy and just goes straight in a good way is something to learn foil winging on.
Yeah, big board, big foil to start with. Something a board that's gonna float you. It's not gonna sink when you crawl up on it. You can easily kneel on it without it sinking underwater. And then a really pitch stable foil that's definitely the easiest.
I would call it basically if the board's big enough that you can stand on, you can grab the foil wing and uphaul it from a standing position. If you're on a really small board, like a lot of us are starting to ride much smaller volume boards, then you have to start on your knees and kind of do what I'd call, it's a little more difficult. It's more like a water start.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we know about the gear we need. What about the wind? How much wind do you need?
Well, once you develop some skills, the wind threshold goes down. I mean, we've been doing it here in as little as 8 knots on a 5-meter wing and kind of a bigger board and a bigger foil. But you definitely need some skills to pump the board and the wing simultaneously. Once you're up, it's easy to stay up, but getting started in really light wind is kind of technical. So I think if you're just starting, you're new to it, I think it kind of starts at maybe like 10 to 12 knots. The windier, the easier, for sure. If you have 15 knots, it's going to be much easier than if you have 12 knots. So a big wing and 12 to 15 knots, I think an average size rider can definitely learn in that kind of wind. And as they get better, that wind range, they'll be able to go in even lighter wind than that.
Okay. Also, if you're riding a small board like this little one here, to get that one out of the water, you need more power in your wing. So you can't get this out below 10 knots, I would say. But with a board like this, you'll be able to pump it up on the foil. When you're a light guy like I am, you can pump it up in way less than 10 knots.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like you're looking around 10 knots for a beginner as the bare minimum on a big wing. What kind of wind range do you get? What size? How do you know what size wing you want for what wind?
Well, we have recommendations on our website to be able to see it all, but I mean, the wings have a huge wind range. So if you have, me for example, I could get away with a 3-meter and a 5-meter and kind of cover basically my entire wind range with those two sizes. So a 3-meter I'll be using above 20 knots, 25 knots, probably above 25 knots. And a 5-meter I can use basically from the bare minimum up to that 20, 25 knots. So yeah, it depends a little bit on the rider size, the size of foil and board you have, but I think, smaller riders might have a 2 and a 4, bigger riders might have a 3 and a 5. I think definitely the 4 and the 5-meter will be our best selling go-to sizes, because most people are probably not going to be doing it in 30 knots. Most people are going to be doing it in lighter wind than that. But yeah, it's a little bit like kiteboarding or windsurfing, where you kind of need the right size sail for the right wind, but they have a massive range because you can depower it. So yeah. What do you guys think?
I have a lot of windsurfing friends. Most of them are into wave sailing, so we don't really start thinking about windsurfing when it's less than 20 knots. That's why I recommend most of my friends get the 5-meter. That's the one you're going to cover most of the conditions you're not windsurfing in, and that's for us is the most effective wing. If you are going into the same conditions where we are windsurfing, then I say get a 4, get a 3.
Yeah.
On Maui we've been using a 3. It's pretty windy.
Yeah.
But at home I've been using the 5-meter 80% of the days.
And you're using the 3 in the gorge a lot, right? Like on those windy days.
Yeah, I'm using the 3 when it's blowing 20 to 30. Yeah, I need to be on the 3. It's being overpowered on them is okay, and they have a lot of range. But it's a lot more fun when you have a smaller wing, of course, and higher wind. So for the gorge where you have the current and a lot of wind, the 3 has been great.
The good thing about the wing is once you get overpowered, you can basically just hold it neutral above your head. Right. And you can just steer the amount of power you get out of the wing pretty easy.
At a certain point, if you start getting really overpowered, where you're just constantly sheeting it out and luffing it the entire time, it does become kind of, like it'll almost start backwinding, and and that becomes a little difficult when it gets super, super windy. But they do have a giant range. You can hold them in a lot of wind because you can just sheet them out.
I think with the dihedral shape, it's a lot easier to handle because it's really stable, even in pretty high wind and the gusts. So that's one nice thing about the design is it's really stable, even when you're holding it with one hand.
Yeah.
And that's a really nice thing about the Duotone Foil Wing. Is
like if you're going in the ideal wind for each size, you can go one-handed all the way.
Yeah.
If you get overpowered, you really can't do that anymore at some point.
Yeah.
I hear you talking about dihedral shape, and I remember years ago watching Ken use one of these things in the gorge with his paddleboard, and no offense, Ken, but it was a little embarrassing watching you do it. But I remember seeing him with, and I've seen some other wings now that have the inflatable, and we use a solid. Why did we move from an inflatable strut to a solid mast? I mean, it seems like it makes packing harder.
Yeah, so I mean, people that know our iRig, which is our inflatable windsurfing rig, it basically has that. It has an inflatable strut with webbing handles. And that was the starting point for the foil wing when Ken was doing it some years ago. And we ended up moving away from that because, we just wanted to have more rigidity, and it's much easier to handle a boom and have sort of infinite hand placement, and also the ability to, turn the wing with just moving your wrist. You don't have that control with webbing handles. It's just, we moved away from that about a year ago. I was actually here in Tarifa last year with a prototype which had handles on it, and when we moved from that to the boom, it kind of went from being this floppy sort of thing to something that felt much more rigid, much more controllable, much more direct, and just easier. Like transitioning, you'll find when you start wing foiling, you're moving your hands a lot. Like when you're tacking and jibing, it's all about hand placement. It's a lot like windsurfing, where you need more power. You got to slide your backhand back, and when you're trying to look where the webbing handles are, that can be a little difficult. So the boom is, when we went from the handle to the boom, it completely changed the whole feel of the wing. So
there's another aspect about the boom. It gives you the ability to trim the wing, because you can extend the boom, flatten the profile of the wing for higher winds, and you can make the boom smaller and have more profile for lower winds. Right. So that the range extends massively with the boom.
Yeah, it gives you adjustment as well.
And the nice thing is you can do that adjustment while you're out on the water, so you don't have to come in and do any re-rigging or anything. That's just like, takes a couple seconds. You can pop the collar open and change the profile of the wing in just a few seconds.
Yeah.
How do you pack one of these things up? Because I know some of us, Klaus mostly, need to get going at some point. How do you pack them up and take them with you?
Well, it's pretty easy. I'm not from kiting. I normally de-rig, and it takes time. Basically, you just open the air valve, let the air out, roll it up, and off you go. If you have a car, you just throw it in. I think if you really want to pack it up, you detach the boom, you roll it completely, and then you have a nice little bag where you shove it in.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, well, but with the boom it has a bigger packing size and so on, but if you look at one of these boards, there's no advantage of having a little backpack, so we see the advantage of the boom is much bigger than the disadvantage of having a larger pack.
Exactly. Plus, and we have battens that obviously don't allow you to fold it from back to front, but with the length of the boom anyway, it fits in a nice slim bag. And the advantages we're getting from the boom and from the stability of the battens, which reduce all the fluttering in the canopy, the benefits far outweigh the ability to pack it up into a small bag.
Does it end up being longer than that, like the board?
No.
It's about the same length as, a 5 meter is about the same length as a 6.5 foot board. So it just fits right in your board bag with the board, and you don't even know it's there.
You can see the length.
Super easy to travel with.
This is a 4.8 board, which Klaas has been riding, which is crazy. And you can see that's a 3 meter wing. So, the length of that boom is less than the length of this board. So if you have a board bag that this is going in anyway, rolls up, it all fits in the same bag.
And I think one thing worth noting is that you can use the same boom for every size of wing. So if you want to get a quiver, you can buy, for example, I would get the 2 or the 3 and the 5 meter, and I can use the same boom for both size wings. And
Exactly.
That's a really nice thing. So, it kind of minimizes the amount of gear you have to have, and that is one of the nice things about this sport is it allows you to use your stand-up paddleboard not only for standing, catching waves, but now you can go out when it's windy, and it just gives you a ton of options.
I guess that brings me to one of the questions that I've seen pop up a lot on the internet chat sites. This guy put it pretty well. Why?
Why? Why wing foil? Why?
Yeah, I mean, for people that are kiting, that are windsurfing, and that are supping, where's the attraction? What draws you to this? Why is it suddenly the hot thing that everybody has to have?
Well, you want to take that question?
Yeah, I just think it's the feeling. I think it's the freedom of not having lines. Going 20 meters out to a kite, which makes launching and landing really challenging. So it's going to just open up a lot more areas to go out in. I could put in at the marina where the boats put in and kind of slog my way out into like where the open water is, and then be able to ride. You would never be able to do that with a kite. And then when you compare it to windsurfing, it just gives you some more freedom too, because you don't have the mast that you're always trying to move your feet around, because you're really trying to stay centered on that board, and it seems like you're always wanting to put your feet right where that mast might be. So it just gives you a lot of freedom to move your feet around and turn.
I think for me that's really the key difference, is what Dan just touched on there, is like the difference between kiting and windsurfing is that to really truly shut off the kite and actually surf on the hydrofoil is really difficult, because you have to constantly fly your kite and not slack your lines. With windsurfing, you kind of have a similar issue where when you hook onto a little swell and you want to do a turn, you're constantly having to maneuver the sail. And with the wing, you have this ability to completely shut it off at will, and you can actually pick your line on the wave, whether you're talking about flat water, doing a carving 360, or actually riding waves. The key difference is the ability to actually shut off the wing completely and actually surf. And so if you're in a place where you're riding waves, of course that has its benefits, because you can shut it off, you can ride the wave. But even if you're using it in flat water, you can kind of power yourself and get some speed, shut the thing off, and actually do a carving 360 without any influence from the wing, which gives someone who maybe doesn't have the opportunity to surf foil and ride waves the ability to have that feeling even on flat water. So you're kind of transferring that surf feeling even onto flat water, that's really the key point of difference, I think, for me.
Yeah, for me it's the same. I think the most addictive about riding a hydrofoil, or the most direct, is riding it on a surf foil board, where you're actually just riding that big front wing. And with the wing, it's like surf foiling on flat water, or surf foiling with a little engine that takes the paddling and the pumping away. So if you're in a wave spot, you just shut the wing off, surf the swell, power your wing up, and sail straight back out, and in an upwind angle, so you just straight up the line up, catch the next wave. And if you do the same thing on flat water, you have a pretty similar feeling. And you don't need to pump all. Like, I can ride for 5 hours on flat water or a spot with a little chop, and I don't get tired and I don't get bored.
Yeah, it's amazing how the wind really holds the wing up, because that's a really common question, is don't your arms get tired from holding the wing up? They're made with the same technology as they make the kites at Duotone, so they're really lightweight, they're super durable, but the angle of the wing just really is intuitive, and it just holds itself up. So really your arms don't get very tired at all. It's pretty surprising, actually.
Yeah, that's a funny point. All my windsurfing friends are asking me that same question. They think, you can do that for this little video for 2 minutes, but they all ride. Windsurfing is very physical, and we all ride a harness. We can't go like in and out without a harness. It's super hard. And with a wing, you just, like, all that power is gone, because you're just purely riding the hydrofoil, and all the drag is gone, and that makes it super easy.
Yeah. Even my first couple sessions on a wing were twice as long as my normal session would be stand-up hydrofoiling, where you're just getting tired because you're just constantly exerting energy and putting the watts into the paddle. This is really fun, because you can really go upwind at a really extreme angle. And for me in the gorge, that's really nice because then I can find some swells and then just ride them downwind, and then one reach just all the way back up like a mile, and it's just a lot of fun. I don't have to run a shuttle and place a car like we used to do a lot with the downwinders and stuff. So now I can just go to one location and still get that same feeling as I would if I was doing a downwinder.
Right. Okay. I've got one other question from the internet. Yep. There's been a bunch of photos of the guy in boots hitting a kicker with the wing.
Yep.
True or false?
False.
I don't know, man.
Really?
I think
Way
you get
false.
I think enough wind, power that baby up and send it off the kicker.
I don't know if you're serious.
I don't know. What do you think, Klaas?
I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure we'll see people going for airs very soon. Yeah. I mean, I'm about to put little inserts in my surf foil board and take it to the waves, take it to stronger winds, and see where it goes.
I think if you've seen the progression that Klaas has gone through, I mean, we started on boards like this on Maui. I mean, 6 months ago he was riding a board like that. He's now riding this little 4.8. He's got this crazy technique where he's able to climb on the board and sink it underwater and angle it in a certain way and get going. And some boards we've been making lately, much shorter foot strap inserts. We're going to start to see guys jumping, and so it's pretty remarkable how quick that progression has gone from riding something like that all the way down to a 4.8. And for sure we'll see that trend continue, and people are going to be riding smaller and smaller gear as they figure it out. So, yeah.
Damn it, looks like I'm going to need new toys.
Well,
get on it.
I've got nothing else.
Okay.
You guys got anything else you want to add?
I get the constant question, how do you start on a little board like that? So maybe I get to that one quickly. I always kind of, because that board has 35 liters, it would never carry you. So you kind of have to sink the board under you. I get both my feet in position. If I have a board with a little bit more flotation, what I normally do is I put my back foot right at the kicker of the board, on the kick pad, and then put the front knee onto the board, get the board under myself, lift the wing up straight away, and you need to have a few knots more in the wing to be able to get the board out of the water. But then once you have the feet in position and you have power in the wing, that's when you slowly lift the board out of the water. And then once you're up on the foil, you're actually more efficient than riding a pretty big board. It's just the start. It's very difficult. That's why I wouldn't recommend anyone to start on a board like this. A lot of people ask me, can I just start on my little surf foil board? Say, no, don't do it. You need a couple of sessions on a bigger board before you're able to, until you really know how to start, how to pump, how to steer the wing, and then you can think about going towards smaller boards.
And I think it's really important to note that, when you're starting, you need to be on like a 2,000 square centimeter board or centimeter foil.
Yeah.
That's what we recommend, our aerofoil 2,000 with the long fuse.
Yeah.
That should be a great starting point for most people. And then you can go up and down. We usually start stepping down to go a little bit faster as we get more experienced to the 1,500 and maybe even we've been riding a little bit the 1,250 and some of the other smaller wings as well.
Yeah, some of the kite wings even, yeah.
I'm mainly riding the Aero 1500 now.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Anything else? Any burning questions you guys have been fielding?
I don't know. That's it.
Be
off the top of my head.
be safe. Look where you're going. I mean, there's a lot of people on the water, and you need to be respectful, just like we are with kites and windsurfers. So I would say, you should take care to not get hurt and not hurt the others around you. So don't
Maybe
go
one more
somewhere
tip.
really crowded to learn. Find a little area where you can learn on your own and not be in anyone's way or hurting anybody.
Maybe one more tip to get the stuff to the water actually. Probably best way to put your board down first, then get the wing, then push both into the water, because we haven't really figured out the perfect way to carry.
There's a few different techniques to carry the wing on the board,
SUP
especially
board.
when you're at the giant board. Yeah.
Big SUP board that is not that light, plus the wing at the same time is quite challenging.
Yeah, I would say definitely you want to carry the foil wing downwind and the board upwind of you, so that the wing is kind of blowing away from the foil and it's not getting caught on the foil. But yeah, if you can get both down to the water and then kind of walk the last bit into the water with the two together, it would be the easiest.
I have another tip. The hand leash don't connect it super tight, because if you have it really tight, it would tangle around your wrist at a certain point if you start to get better. If it's able to rotate, you have much more freedom, and that's not going to happen.
Good tip, yeah.
The hand leash is for the wing.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah, hand leash goes to the wing, board leash, ankle or waist or wherever goes to the board.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time, guys. Thanks for possibly missing your flight, Klaus. Good luck.
You gotta get to the airport.
Speaking of wings,
okay, see ya.
gotta fly.
See ya.
See ya.
Later, man.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Yeah.